are tuned in to The Blend. My name is Steve Benz. We are broadcasting live right here in downtown Chicago. Tonight, I bring you Canadian rock royalty. He had hits in the 70s, joined a band in the 80s called Red Rider, had bigger hits, went solo with the States, right here in the States, in the 90s, had bigger hits. He continues to produce. He continues to tour. He continues to write new music. Let's welcome Canadian rocker Tom Cochrane.
Hey, Steve, it's good to be on, man. We've talked about this for a while, and yeah, I'm glad to be there. Wish you'd come to the show at the winery in Chicago, but you didn't make it. Maybe next time. And yeah, how you been?
I've been pretty good, but we've got out-of-towners that we sent to your show. How about that?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they were from New Jersey. They flew in. They won some tickets, and I got nothing but posts about that. So what's it like being on tour again?
Well, I've never really been off. Like we've a couple of years. Like last year was 65 dates, and this year I'll probably do another 35. So, and summer's always busier. Although we're starting a bit of an extended run through Ontario, we haven't done a lot of shows here in the past few years. So, yeah, it's great, man. It's really what it's about. It's kind of gone full circle. It's always been about that, I guess,
right.
Playing live for everybody, and really back when rock and roll started and this all started, I mean, records were considered promotion for the live show. And,
right.
So it's really the lifeblood of what we do, right?
It always is. I don't care what anybody says. It's always about the vinyl to get all of you to come to town.
Yeah, it's live,
That's the way it should be. It's about, can you play live? Some of the new acts can't really play live, so it's good to know that you just pick up your axe and you just play, and you play hard.
Yeah, and God knows, guitars have taken a beating in the last little while. There's they say less and less kids are playing guitar than ever before, so it's kind of interesting times in a way. But to make music just on a computer is not, in my mind, I suppose it's a bit archaic, but it's not being a musician,
Yeah, because you're all by yourself in a studio. You don't need a band, and that's just not music. That's not rock to me.
Yeah, or live, you're spinning it, or you're playing samples. I mean, yeah, it takes a certain amount of creativity. There's no doubt about it, but there is something pure and essential about somebody playing a real instrument and singing the songs,
So take me through the beginning to now and writing a song. We're talking about having a band and working through all those dynamics. Has that changed for you over the years?
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, in the beginning, I didn't have a whole lot of control over the stuff, I didn't have a lot of control over the equipment. I didn't understand it. And the more and more I got to understand it, the more of a pleasure it became, because all those things do work into the creative process. And, more and more the demos became more comprehensive until you get to a point where the demos sometimes hold up, and then you bring a band in to play the different parts. But yeah, still, I think the real magic is when you get a chance to go over a song with a bunch of really great players. And I've had the great pleasure of working with Kenny Greer and Jeff Jones again. We took a bit of a hiatus from each other for maybe 12 years there, but for the last 14 years or so, we've been gigging again together. So these guys are tremendous players. So it's always fun to be able to kind of hash out a song with real guys and jam it and get it right that way. But a lot of times, I will come up with a song on acoustic guitar or electric, and then lay it down, or piano, and then lay it down, and then add the different parts, and then you play it for the guys and say, what do you think? I mean, in a sense, it's the way we've replaced notating music with a staff and all of that, with music notes. I mean, you basically can lay all those parts down and give an example of what you want, and some of the time, some of those parts hold up in the final recording.
Does the melody write the lyrics, or the other way around?
One question. Somebody asked me a while back, they said, what comes first, the lyrics or the words?
Okay.
And I said, I think you mean in lyrics and music. I've developed sort of a system, Stephen. I don't know if a lot of other people do it. I've heard McCartney used to do it. and certain songwriters used to do it. But I found that sometimes I sit down and I can write the most eloquent lyrics, the most eloquent poetry, and it just doesn't fit the music.
Right.
So I try to jam it like I'm a sax player. I've got the story in my mind. I've got the ideas in my mind. Maybe you have the certain hooks, and you've got a feeling, more importantly, that you want to get across. And I jam to the music, whether it's just playing it or whatever. And sometimes it's what I call a mumble track. And you lay it down as a mumble track, and then you fill in the blanks. And it's worked really well for me because it doesn't do you any good if you write a great lyric, but the lyric doesn't mesh with the music. I was always amazed at Elton John, for instance, and a lot of other people have done this, have a partner who's strictly a lyric writer, strictly a poet, and they'll write books or reams of poetry and sketches, and they'll submit them to Elton John, and I'm speaking of Bernie Taupin, of course, and then he comes up with a song out of it. It always amazes me because, to me, it's a matter of having emotion, having an idea that matches the chord changes and the melody, and jamming it so that the songs that they feel indelible. It feels like it was born as opposed to written. And I think that's the best way to put it. The best songs are really born. I mean, I wrote Big League, for instance, about sports and a dad and his son, and whether it's hockey or whether it's basketball or football or whatever, sports are the way out socially and economically for a lot of kids, right? And so that's what that song really captures, and it's a true story about a boy and his dad, in this case, in hockey. And I wrote that song, I think, in 20 minutes, so it came really quick. But the music actually accompanied the words while I was writing it. I'd play a few bars and I'd sing it, and then I jot it down, and was recording it into, at that time, a cassette recorder. So yeah,
what's that? What's a cassette recorder?
Yeah, it was, man. People are going, what the hell is a cassette recorder? They're Googling it as we speak. They're Googling what is a cassette recorder.
That's right. And if once you Google it, then you'll understand why we always had pencils back then.
That's right.
Now, you talk about the mumble track. John Lennon was known for that, where he would just throw gibberish in there because, again, it was the melody. He heard the melody in his head. So it sounds like you were the same age. Is that what happened with the song that I love the best is No Regrets? Okay, that's my song. Is that how that started?
Pretty much, yeah. No Regrets. I had the chord progression and laid it down on we're moving up to DAT at that point, a DAT player. Wasn't cassette anymore. And then, the song took shape that way. After a few passes, the story would come out, and the song would start to take shape. And I've always found that's the best way to do it. It's the most essential way to do it because, again, if the lyrics are awkward, and a lot of times, and maybe that's why rap came about, because there's so many words crammed in, but a lot of times with poetry and lyrics, you try to cram too many ideas into one sentence or one stanza, and it doesn't quite mesh in terms of a traditional melody, right? Whereas a lot of rap doesn't tend to have it's not melody dependent. It's strictly based on the rhythm and the cadence of these rapid fire words.
And considering the two big American hits here, and solo hits, I should say, during the 90s, you could have been a rapper, my friend.
Steve, it's weird the impression people get. I've had people come up to me and say, Life's a Highway is one of the first, kind of rap songs. I said, no. It goes back a long time before that. I mean, if you're going to point at a white guy singing that kind of rap feel, I mean, you go back to Jim Carroll. Those are people who died. I remember that song really impacted me a lot. I don't know if you remember Jim Carroll, Basketball Diaries. And that was an incredible piece of kind of rap poetry put to kind of a punk feel song. And that was, those are people that died, and that was back in 79, I guess. Yep. 79, 80, somewhere in there. But yeah, Life's Highway does have that feel. It's kind of that rapid fire vocal, but there's still a strong melodic component, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you could have been Ice-T.
Ice-TC. Yeah.
Right, there you go. Now, what I'm amazed by your career, you came up in the 70s. In the 80s, you're in Red Rider, and you took off. Let's face it. You had massive hits here and in Canada, and then you walk away to do a solo project. Is that what happened? Did you walk away from the band?
Well, it's a much more long, drawn-out, convoluted process than that. You know, the nitty-gritty of it was basically Ken Greer started spending more time producing. I remember we were doing the Victory Day record, and it was Tom Cochrane and Red Rider at that point. We changed that because we found in general people weren't associating the music. A lot of the way I approached the Red Rider stuff was as a singer-songwriter.
Okay.
That's you know, before I joined the band, I was singing coffee houses and I was a troubadour, right? So we felt like around 85 that we changed the name to Tom Cochrane Red Rider because it just seemed like the songs were so lyric centric that people needed a face to relate the songs to.
Yeah.
And then Victory Day came along, so you know we're 8 records in here at this point. And then Victory Day came along. Kenny was busy producing a band called the Tragically Hip, which became massive in Canada. People have no idea in the States how huge Tragically Hip was, and Gord Downey tragically died recently with a brain tumor. It was very impacted us all quite a bit. But anyways, Kenny produced them, and so he's spending less time working with my stuff, and I ended up starting to do a lot of it, like because Kenny would do the demos with me in this house we had rented, and I was doing a lot of the work on my own, and so then I branched out. I remember coming up with these, one of them being No Regrets, another one was Washed Away off what became Mad Mad World, another one was Get Back Up, and played them for Kenny, and he didn't like them. And God, I remember seeing this documentary on Petty, and it was just so similar to his experience, him playing the Full Moon Fever stuff to the band, to Howie Weinstein and stuff, and that was Howie Weinstein, the bass player, anyways, in Petty's band, and a couple of the guys, and they didn't get it, and it was the same with Kenny. So I'm doing total mock-ups of these songs. Some of them stood up on the record, you know, where the parts stood up. We just basically added a real drummer and maybe a real bass. And Kenny didn't like them because he wasn't really involved. And I think that's sometimes human nature. So I went off, and so we had a bit of a falling out at that point, and off I went to do my solo career stuff. Very much around the same time Petty did, you know, separated from the Heartbreakers and did Full Moon Fever. It was right around that same time frame. So, you know, it happens, right? You grow in different directions. Springsteen, the same thing, but then you end up getting back together with those guys when you realize there is a real chemistry and a magic there.
Yep.
I don't think Springsteen's band has a problem playing some of the songs that he did as a solo artist, you know, or a solo project. And same with Petty. And so it comes full circle. Like Kenny and Jonesy, who were in Red Rider, played the stuff, my solo stuff, great, and they love playing it now. So we've come full circle and mended the fences a long time ago, and now we're back together doing shows.
That's awesome. And I just looked at your website. You're on tour starting this month, and that's great. I can't wait. I hope that you come back to Chicago. I mean, I felt bad that I missed the show, but
the States, Chicago was so much fun. Chicago's always been as a matter of fact, the one disc on Mad Mad World 25 that we just released, the 25th anniversary, was a recording at Park West.
There you go.
So much energy. That was such a good band. That's the Loverboy band, of course. That's Spider Seneve and Matt Fournette on drums, and what a great rhythm section those guys are. Like we had a bitch. That was a great band too, and yeah, definitely I want to get back to Chicago, and it was a real pleasure playing there, and got so much history there, and it's a lot of fun. So it's just good being on the road. It's good kicking doing it. I did the show a few years ago with Springsteen, and we were laughing about it. And he said, man. It doesn't matter if I'm playing for 40,000 people. It's like I'm jamming in the garage at 15 with my buddies.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. And that's the way it should be. And that's how I feel. I'm on stage, and it's timeless. And so it's the only place I'm allowed to be timeless, Steve. You know.
Oh, that's funny. And when you come back, you and I will get together. We'll do some live video stuff. What do you think?
I'd love to do that, man. Thank you.
Hey, so I got one question before you head out. I know your band is waiting, and you're off to the studio. Now, a lot of people will ask, a lot of interviewers will say, what would older Tom say to younger Tom? Let's take the opposite. What would younger Tom say to now older Tom in his career? What do you think? How would that conversation go?
I'd probably say, don't lose your temper as much, man. Just keep it cool. You know, it is important what you say to people and how you act. And there's sometimes that as a creative person or any human being on this small orb of ours that we kind of get desperate to get our points across. And, you know, it's like in Boy Inside the Man, you know, when I turned 25, I was hungry, I had drive. And sometimes you don't treat people the way they should be treated. And I learned how to do that. And I learned to be more patient with people, more understanding, in spite of being ambitious. And that's what I'd probably say to myself, that, man, things are going to work out. Just take the high road and keep moving forward and try to treat people like you want to be treated yourself. That old adage, right?
See, that's the key phrase.
Probably
take the high road.
Yeah.
You know, we always get that moment where we don't take the high road.
On the ones you love.
Yeah.
There's another one.
And last question before I let you go here. What is your legacy? What do you want people to remember from Tom when the day that you want to hang it up, if you ever do hang it up?
Boy, I'd love people to say he was a great guy. I mean, I know that sounds corny and all that stuff, but he was a great guy, and he treated people with respect. So that kind of goes back to what we're talking about. But the songs also, he wrote so many songs that stood the test of time, because for the average American, they're going to maybe recognize Lunatic Fringe and Life's a Highway. A lot of the younger generation might not even recognize those, you know, but there's so much more there in the catalog. And so I'd like people to realize that they're real songs that come from real experiences, and that I was a good guy and along that road, and spread some goodwill along that road with those songs, and also in my life and in the way I conducted things. And again, it goes back to what I said, you know, when you're young, you do some stupid things and say some stupid things and hurt people that you shouldn't hurt. So, but, you know, we learn from that too. So, perhaps I'm saying, Steve, I did lie and no regrets. We do all have some regrets,
right,
no matter what. But you hope that you can limit the number of regrets you have. Let's put it that way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then you make amends. Just somehow you make amends with, you know, the good and the bad in life.
For sure, man. For sure. You
Tom,
know, all human beings, right?
Tom, it is always a pleasure. My airwaves are always open to you. We'll make sure that we have you back on later this year.
Well, brother, you're a legend. You're doing some good work, and you're keeping the music alive. You're a musicologist, and you're doing your part. It's a very big part. So thank you on behalf of myself and other musicians out there that you're helping keep the music alive. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom. Let's play a little double shot. You guys are listening to The Blend.